Hi, friends. It is I, who's Eric, who's talking with Fayt people. Stark against the blackness. Today's title of the live stream is Communication Failure my Fayt, my fate? What's this title based on? Well, it's titled on my difficulty communicating with Fayt Wind yesterday. You know, she was basically trying to argue with me about healthcare, but she wasn't listening at all. Like, she assumes I'm opposed to her position, which of course I am, because her position's unnuanced and not thought through at all. It's just a feeling. But I'm not necessarily opposed to her conclusion. But she doesn't get that or something, you know? That if you have, no matter how passionately you believe in something, if you want to actually talk about policy, it's time to take away the passion, you know? Take away the passion and be realistic. It doesn't matter if a single payer system works better or not. You know, the point is, you gotta say it works better than something else and explain how we get from here to there if it's in fact a real advocacy. Otherwise, you're just complaining. You're just a complainer. And you're an ideologist, you know? You have to take the ideology out of politics if you want to be a meaningful thinker about politics. So, you know, it's like, it reminds me also of Winter. Or whatever his name was. Winter something. Again, another person who's consumed by his passions about ideology to the extent that it doesn't even matter if the outcomes you want or the reasonableness of what you're saying, that doesn't matter. It's a challenge for me to learn how to communicate with people who aren't thinking properly about politics at all. With so many people committed so much to a team, to an ideology, to a belief system, it makes it incredibly difficult to communicate with them effectively. Because they're not looking at the nation as something that you are on the side of or not. They're seeing that no, I mean, she was saying that she was arguing a TE position. That, in fact, she was trying to justify something by pointing to its effectiveness, but she wasn't. I mean, she didn't do that. And I pointed that out and she got all upset about it, you know? I mean, cognitive functions are great. They're vastly less important, actually, but I get your point. They're more interesting to you, and that's fine. Even when talking about cognitive functions, I have the same problem. People who come in with attachments to certain notions, and oh, I did misread you. I did misread you. My bad, Freddy Forgiato. I read you backwards. Let me pull this bong rip. First bong rip of the day. It's always a lunger. The first bong rip of the day is always a lunger. You get your morning lung going on, and so today yesterday I took a day off of Adderall, and actually, like, I took basically the last 2 days off of Adderall because because I wanted the drugs to work well again, basically. It's true, Winston's mom. I would. I am. And this was true a long time ago. I am tired of debating people. Debating people is an inherently adversarial process. Of course, I get angry when forced to engage in that adversarial process and then proceed to beat people up, you know. Old habits die hard, you know. But I genuinely am not interested in adversarial conversations. I'm interested in talking to real civil people about real things, you know. Trying to convince Fayt Wind that her position that single payer works every country where it is somehow a political position or an advocacy, it just makes me want to pull my hair out. I mean, there's no sense that we are operating from a status quo that already exists and that we have to operate on. You know, we can't work on a blank slate and build the world we want to build. So even if she's right about single payer, transitioning the United States from its current messed up situation to single payer is not a terrible idea, but a massive challenge politically. And also, you're looking at like huge structural changes to governance, etc. You got massive vested interest groups and insurance companies who legislated themselves into this permanent middleman role, but have all these regulations, constraints on them. I mean, the answer to healthcare, given the current status quo, is altering the AMA somewhat, which is the Obamacare. Alter that somewhat so that you change the requirements such that insurance companies can now sell and are encouraged to sell high deductible, basically catastrophic health insurance. That's what people should have to buy if you're worried about the free riders problem, which was justification for this healthcare thing in the first place. That will successfully get rid of free riders while maintaining low-cost health insurance for people. So if the health insurance company is selling me a policy where they never have to pay anything until I've already paid $5,000 out of pocket, my premiums are going to be very low. Now, granted, if I get cancer or something, then the insurance company is going to have to pay. But most people with a $5,000 deductible are going to make it probably through most of their life without ever having the insurance company have to pay anything. You know? Somebody like me, I don't want to go to there shouldn't be any insurance unless you have money. If you get sick and are poor, it's natural selection. You bum, you work harder. I mean, look, I agree health insurance is a terrible thing, because if there wasn't any health insurance, all healthcare services would be meaningfully affordable to average people. That's the thing. I am not in favor of a plan that that throws people away and it says, well, if you're sick, you just die. Too bad. I'm not in favor of that plan. Sorry. I'm not. So the thing is, I'm in favor of a smart plan instead of a stupid plan. They died, Hero Lamb. They died. They went to the local doctor who told them they had frogs in their stomach, and then they died. At age 28. I am not recommending that access to healthcare be predicated on wealth. I understand that this world is one in which that's not an acceptable solution. Yeah, I told you, hey, you got some ghosts inside you. Drink this ghost poison. I had appendicitis too when I was in 5th grade. So, 10? And I got my appendix out as well. And I am not in favor of any program that denies people medical care that they need on the grounds that they can't pay for it. However, I am in favor of making everybody pay for their health care if health care is affordable. Here's the deal. As a cash patient at my doctor, I pay less than $100 a visit. $80 for my 15-minute visit or something, you know? If they were billing the insurance company, they'd charge them something like $400. Why? Because the doctor understands that I'm not an insurance company and that the insurance companies aren't people. The doctors make an effort to milk the insurance companies for everything they can because the insurance companies are milking their insurees for as much as they can. Exactly, Hero Lamb. Yeah, we have two groups of people in America. One who wants free everything for everyone, and the other are harsh libertarians who say let them die if they can't afford it. It's insane. And that is exactly the case, Hero Lamb. Yes, hospitals are a complete disaster because you have people visiting emergency rooms with no insurance and their bills never get paid. Right. Now, if you had catastrophic health care, it would potentially cover both trauma room and costs over with a deductible maybe as low as $1,000. Now you're talking about people who can and will afford their health care because the deductibles are low, the chance the insurance company is going to have to pay for anything is low, and it's sustainable economically. If we try to promote everybody to get all this preventative care and shit, that's incredibly ill-advised. The thing is, I've had to use like government health care before. After I lost my job with the county, I got RIF'd, reduction in force, because basically I got laid off. So, this is just, for some reason the image slideshow's not working this morning. I didn't feel like messing with it anymore. I thought it kind of looked nice with the black. Yeah, and I agree. Linking health insurance to employment was a big problem. The idea that corporations that are sufficiently large now have to provide health insurance to full-time employees. Well, what does that end up doing? It drives all those companies to make everybody a part-time employee, obviously. It's like there's no sense when you're making these policies as to what the actual impact is going to be, you know? There's a lot to this subject, though. I believe certain things like mass-produced foods people eat are bad for them. I don't. And sedentary lifestyles, yeah. Office jobs, etc., may be harmful too, possibly. But I don't believe in food being a problem. Running Fox and Lawnmower. Today is the day that you two kiss and make up. Yeah, I typed your Huckleberry. He's an ENTJ. Listen, together, I want you to remember Malibu's Most Wanted. Do you guys remember the movie Malibu's Most Wanted? In Malibu's Most Wanted, uh, you've got the governor of California, right? And there are these two urban fellows playing basketball. And they're pushing and shoving. He gets between them and says, "Hey, hey, hey! We don't need to battle over who's with which crew or whether or not they're wearing the right colors. Together, we can build California." That's me, okay? I'm that kind of guy. I'm making friends out in the urban basketball courts, breaking up fights, saying, "Hey, you guys, we can all work together." I'm Fred from I'm Fred from Scooby-Doo, you know. Come on, guys. Fred's so encouraging. If I had to do an unpleasant task that I really didn't feel like it, you know, I would want to have Fred. Probably. I don't ever go in there, Ravenous Roush. Uh, Basically, as far as I'm concerned, Ravenous Rouch, the Raw Room, quote unquote, died when YouTube rules made it such that I could no longer auto record and publish it to a channel. As soon as that happened, as far as I was concerned, the experiment was over. But I had a set of people, you know, sort of fight hard on behalf of keeping them open anyway. That people did still sometimes go there. The groups people found it important to have that space available sometimes. So I left it available. I don't have a next step of Discord. Because, look, there's a few reasons. One, I mean, this is my platform. So, and I sometimes live stream a lot, you know. When I'm live streaming a lot, in my mind, having an alternate platform is just cannibalizing myself. And as far as the Raw Rooms go, well, you know, like I said, I went with the people that pushed hard for me to keep them. It wasn't very expensive, so I kept them. But I saw them as purposeful when they were being recorded and published automatically. Then it was a retention of parts of people's lives for their future reference. It was archival in some sense. And I still have, fortunately, the videos from Raw Channel 2, at least. So anybody who ever had conversations on that Raw Room when it was publishing, those conversations are still up on the internet, and 10 years from now they can go back and see themselves having a conversation on the internet from 10 years ago as part of their sort of life scrapbook or whatever. Unfortunately, like I said, the Raw Channel 1, which had so many thousands of hours of good and interesting material and incredibly dull and pointless material and everything else in between, was annihilated by YouTube, like made to cease to exist, and all the content was lost. I mean, they can be very interesting. I'm a good conversationalist. I would be a good podcaster. Yeah, YouTube took it down. Um, well, its reason was copyright violations. Because one of the things about having a setup like that is the appear.in rooms made it such that people could share links and watch things together. Uh, we had one ESFP girl, Chloe, who persistently liked to troll by dropping in copyright shit and made it, there was a structural problem that somebody could exploit and somebody did. And so when the rules changed and she did it again, I got another copyright warning, then it just fucking destroyed the whole channel. Of course, I wasn't at any point being somebody who's interested in copyright violation. It's just I didn't have the situation securitized adequately, I guess you could say. Running Fox, I hope you're not yawning about my fascinating discussion about the Raw Room. Okay, because that would hurt my feelings. Because this is really, really fascinating stuff. Well, yeah, Ravenous Roush. Are you going to give me some TE, some NETE stuff here? I have tried, I tried all sorts of stuff. Okay. It's like you're talking about yesterday's plate full of mess that I no longer have to deal with, and you're saying, "Hey, let's revisit plate full of mess and deal with it like this instead." Yeah. No, don't even talk about plate full of mess like that. Okay, we're not solving that problem anymore. See, here's the thing. I don't want to be a bionic man. But if we're gonna get bionic in one spot, you might as well have like bionic arm or something, so you can go lift up super heavy things with one arm, just one bionic arm. I wonder if you can turn off the bionicness, though, is the problem. If you're constantly bionic, then you'd have a hard time dealing with things that require a light touch. Wouldn't it working at all be bionic? I don't know. Why do they call it bionic? Okay, if I'm the bionic man, what makes my arm bionic? I understood it to be that it has some sort of like super mechanical strength or something, right? But does that mean you replaced your regular strength with mechanical strength, and you can no longer use your regular strength, or are they existent side by side? The ice cream cone proof. Well, that sounds interesting. Apostle emphasized the idea that fundamental mathematics is how one thinks about things, not just what one is thinking about things. One of his iconic examples was the ice cream cone proof, that the focal property of an ellipse is the consequence of its definition as a section of a cone. Specifically, taking as the definition of an ellipse a plane curve obtained by intersecting an inclined plane with a cone. Apostle demonstrated the connection between conic sections and their foci via a proof and picture of dandelion. His explanation, which I still remember from my freshman year of college, is beautiful. There is a very simple and elegant argument showing the focal property of an ellipse as a consequence of its definition as a section of a cone. This proof, which we refer to as the ice cream cone proof, was discovered in 1822 by Belgian mathematician G.P. Dandelin. It makes use of two spheres, S1 and S2, drawn so as to be tangent to the cutting plane of the cone, illustrated in Figure 2.1. These spheres touch the cone along two parallel circles C1 and C2. We shall prove the points F1 and F2 where the spheres contact the plane can serve as foci of the ellipse. His preference for axiomatic rather than mechanistic definition, and his exercises that are easy when the material is understood in the right way. His course had a profound influence on my approach not only to mathematics but to all learning. True. So true how much more valuable, determinate, interesting, etc. axiomatic reasoning is over mechanistic reasoning. You know, it's like there's never been a truer statement than that. Done right, we use axiomatic reasoning and not mechanistic reasoning. You know what I'm saying? Fuck yeah, axiomatic reasoning. Census? Eh? What? I don't know. Do people do that? I'm not avoiding it nor embracing it. I don't know anything about it, really. My dad used to be the director of the census in a certain region around here. The man's going to come get me if I don't... Well... You know, I have these Census Bureau things here, like badges and shit around here. Because my dad, as I indicated, used to be one of the regional directors for the Census Bureau, okay? So I thought it would be a very funny video to go out into public in a place where there are multiple people and wearing the census shit and go to people and say, excuse me, 3, go along, ma'am, 4, okay, go about your business. Like that. You know? See if people ask me if I'm working for the Census Bureau. Or something. I get, like, one time I was goofing around wearing my dad's old badges and stuff. And at this hotel. And I had on a I don't remember exactly what I had on. I had on a shirt that proclaimed me to be something I wasn't, you know, like I can't remember what the shirt was. But then I also had on this Census Bureau thing. So these two people who were in the army, they must have been like army recruiters or something. They were both like decked out in not army uniform, but like army sweats that say like "Go Army" and "Yay Army" and stuff like that. They're decked out in like gift shop army gear. Anyway, first they're like, "Oh, you man, yeah," referring to my shirt, and I'm like, "No, I'm just wearing the shirt. I have nothing to do with that." And then they said, "Oh, you work for the Census Bureau," because I had on my dad's little thing as a joke. You know, I'm like, actually, no, and then like the door opened and I went out of the elevator. They made me be like, "That's what you get, Eric. That's what you get for being cool, you know." That's totally what you get. You have regular people taking you seriously. That sounds illegal, Ravenous Farouche. I'm pretty sure that I doubt there's a law that would make me in trouble for dressing up like a Census Bureau person and going to a park and having myself filmed going up to random people and counting them. Imagine dressing up like a half-used cigarette and a homeless person tries to smoke you. That's quite a costume you're envisioning. Census people are not cops. Census counters are definitely not cops. They're nothing of the sort. Anyway, I would just be wearing, you know, a sticker that says, Census Bureau, and a badge that says, Regional Director, Census Bureau, David Strauss, and have a clipboard, and all I'd be doing is going around and counting people. I'm not saying I'd be telling them to do anything, you trying to exercise any authority. I'd just be like, hey, 3, go about your business. How am I going to get in trouble for that? I don't think I could get in trouble for that. They're counting us for the eventual shipping to prison camps? I mean, they've been doing the census since the beginning of the country, Lawnmower. This sure is a long plan. The census is a necessary thing to determine a lot of stuff that's proportional in the federal government. Like, how many representatives a given district, a given state gets, it has to do with population, and there's a lot of other things that link to population density and other stuff like that. That means we actually do need a census, and ideally it'd be a fairly accurate one. Oh, the census there's nothing wrong about census. Well, I mean, it seems kind of a weirdly antiquated way to count how many people there are. After all, we have birth certificates and death certificates. You'd think we'd just be able to start about 100 years ago and subtract the latter from the former, right? I mean, it wouldn't count for immigration, but that would seem to give you a pretty good, accurate count of native-born citizens. Hi, Rathor Vicky. In day-to-day discourse, do you find yourself critiquing people's politics in public? I mean, I don't really have a lot of conversations out in the world, Rare that I strike up a conversation with a stranger, unless I'm in a really making mood. I'm not very bold about interviewing strangers. I wish I were bolder. I wish I would be more comfortable going up to people and saying, hey, would you mind if I interview you about this for my YouTube channel? You're going to get a lot of no's. But, I mean, you're going to get a lot, you cannots, but you'll get some yeses. And, if I were more fully realized in what I'm doing, I would do more of that. But it's a little bit out of my comfort zone, and I guess I excuse myself my shyness in that area. Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to promote a YouTube channel, too. If you go to places where there are people, and you interview people, and you give them a card and say, hey, this is the channel it's going to be on later, then, people usually tune in to see themselves, right? Maybe share it with their friends or something. Okay, lawnmower. I gotta say, there's something a little bit off-putting about using an article in front of gay, right? And the reason is because I guess if you say to somebody, "Oh, I didn't know you were gay," you're saying, "Oh, I didn't know you, the object, has the following attribute, gayness." If you say, "I didn't know you were a gay," you're saying, "Oh, I didn't know that you were actually just a gay." It's like you're it's no longer an attribute, it's replacing the identity, right? It's a neat little rhetorical trick. Isn't language great how subtle it is like that? The lawnmower can get a little jab in there like that by just putting a in front of it. I love the incredible subtle richness of language. You have no problem with a gay or any a gay? Backhanded gay remarks? I mean, it's interesting. My dad and I were having a conversation 2 nights ago about his childhood and that he said basically there were the Amish, the Mennonites, and what he was, which was like some kind of Mennonite light, and basically they in Pennsylvania at the time they said it the the Amish people referred to things that were non-Amish, or the English as they call them, gay. That so Mennonites were more gay than um, Amish, and my dad's thing, which wasn't Mennonites, which was like I said, it was the next step closer, the next step further away from Amish than Mennonites, but not like all the way to regular. Okay, so my dad's thing, he was even more gay than he was Church of the Brethren. Okay, so it went Amish, Mennonites, Church of the Brethren. He was Church of the Brethren. They were more gay than the Mennonites, who were more gay than the Amish, but the Church of the Brethren was less gay than the English. Okay, and that's how they use the term in this old-fashioned way, meaning full of partying and stuff, right? Uh, so I thought that was interesting, and it's interesting the way that my dad actually will naturally use the term the English, you know, and sort of expect me to understand that he's referring to Americans who aren't Amish or Mennonite or Church of the Brethren. So, of course, my dad's an atheist. He rejected all that shit entirely. Yeah, language is super interesting. Yeah, that's my ancestry on my dad's side, Pennsylvania Dutch. But he was, like I said, he was Church of the Brethren, which is less hardcore than Mennonites. They're much more like a regular church. And therefore, back when he was a kid, they were considered, quite gay compared to the Amish, but less gay than the English. No, Ravenous Roush, I think I'd put it out. If a joint I was smoking suddenly revealed that it was a sentient being harmed by fire, I'd put it out and say, well, how the hell was I supposed to know you were a sentient being? I had no clue that. This never happened before whenever I've lit in a joint. So, you can't blame me. Don't be mad at me. I did put it out as soon as I realized you could talk. In other words, I'd immediately go to blame avoidance. I kind of like this black backdrop too, I like that idea. Pheromones is comparable to phenomes. Phonemes, I mean. The thing is this. Intuitives don't understand language phonetically. Phonetic acquisition of language is a process that I'd say it links specifically to sensors. Intuitives have whole language acquisition. And there was quite a while where, in the 70s, where the advocacy in education was recommending whole language acquisition. Because, of course, the people who were coming up with this were intuitives, and they understood how they acquired language. And now, of course, it's all phonetics, but there's no recognition of the fact that they're both used by different sets of people. That intuitives use whole language, especially extroverted intuitors, I think, use whole language acquisition, and, sensors need phonetics. They have to learn it more brute force. You had a weird emission dream about your aunt? That is weird. I had a very bad dream the other night. I had a dream where Delilah died, but I called her. She's fine. She used to do that to me all the time. She'd call me and say, "I had a bad dream that you died," and I'd say, "Nope, I'm fine." Yeah, those types of dreams are terrible. I've also had dreams sometimes where my significant other cheats on me. Those are terrible. Or dreams where I cheat on my significant other. Those are terrible. Uh, like, I was thinking, like, why am I here? Why am I here with this chick? What's going on? What am I doing? And then it'll be like, sort of jump ahead, and my significant other is sobbing, and I'm trying to justify myself. It's like, talk about a nightmare, right? Trying to justify the unjustifiable. That's a nightmare. No, I never had a dream of cheating on my significant other with myself. Never did. How is INFP communication impressive, depressive, or confusing? Please tell. I don't think INFP communication is confusing at all. It can be impressive. Look at Curious Kyra. She has plenty of impressive INI, makes lots of good and interesting jokes. Even when they're not good jokes, they're often interesting in their oddness. And so, yeah, she's great at doing fun things with words. There's an example of impressiveness. Depressive. Well, I don't know if it's depressive or not, but okay, maybe it's not sensors and intuitives. Maybe it's NI versus NE. Phonetics. I mean, look, everybody's able to sound words out. It doesn't mean that you can't learn phonetics, but it's a matter of whole acquisition versus learning to read via phonetics. If you know how to read before you learn phonetics, then you've done whole language acquisition. If you don't or can't, then you need phonetics acquisition. What type am I, Eric? How do you know Kyra is INFP? Holy cow. Well, I've actually hung out with Kyra and spent some time with her, and I typed her. So, that's how. She lives local to me. You, Ravenous Roush. Let me think about it. Let me grow up and see what else you've written and stuff. It could be a ESTP. Could be INFJ. Probably Beta Quadra. That's my guess. INFJ, ESTP. Those are my first two guesses. Depression can also be a geographical term, but it's hardly used, only the negative clinical term. Well, I mean, it depends who you're talking to. If you're out on a survey team, chances are, if you're going to say, note the depression at 78 degrees by 32 degrees or something, then yeah, I agree. Robin says good humor, active humor, which has made me think maybe ESTP. Could be an N. I'm not saying you're not an N. One of the things that I thought I'd like to play music with you again, Kyra, and record again. That last one came out, really good. It's my favorite instrumental thing. I could put it beneath stuff. I was trying to put lyrics and melody over it, but it has so much going on melodically already. It's hard for me to find the. Well, actually, I mean, maybe I should do that today. I've got some energy today, and because I basically took the last 2 days off from amphetamines, and I got a lot of sleep. I'm pretty well rested. You can tell I'm not fully well rested. These lines, like this and this, when I'm completely 100% rested, they'll basically be invisible. Like, they'll go away completely. But that happens very rarely that I get that much rested. Now, last night before bed, I took half a Klonopin, which means I had a beautiful, perfect night's sleep last night. Talk about something that fucking works. If I take half a Klonopin, I sleep like a baby. I sleep like a baby inside of a log, inside of a well, Ravenous Roush, I don't know. You're asking me to type you on what you say in the chat. I don't have that much experience talking with you in the chat. Not as much as some other people. I haven't paid attention to it at all. I just looked up at the previous thing, saw what you said, and intuited what I thought might be possible. Take a shot in the dark. If I'm right, I seem like a genius. If I'm wrong, I say this stuff. Trazodone does not work with. Okay, so I used to take trazodone. That's when I met with the Greys. That's a very NE statement right there. That's fine. You just do that, Ravenous Roush. I've also taken trazodone before to sleep, and I did not find it nearly as desirable a sleeping aid as Klonopin. Now, the thing is, well, Xanax is short action. Klonopin is long release. Klonopin is not a party drug at all. As far as I'm concerned, I do not understand how anybody could want to do Klonopin as a party drug, because it's not like it causes euphoria or anything like that. If I take half a Klonopin, I just have a perfect night's sleep. Like, I slept 4 hours, got up to pee, slept another 3 hours, got up to pee, slept another 3 hours, and got up. And the whole time I was sleeping, I was just beautifully, happily asleep. It's like I wasn't heavily drugged or anything. I didn't feel like, unable to get up and pee. I didn't feel like weird in the head. I just felt incredibly sleepy and happy to be sleeping. It's the best sleep aid that there ever was invented. It's unbelievable how it does exactly what you want a sleep aid to do. Now, I don't take those very often. I take maybe half a Clonny twice a month. But if I feel like it's important for sustaining a given usage of a given bottle of Adderall. So it's like there'll be moments during the month where I know I'm up. I also know I'm spent creatively. I don't have anything really left to give, and if I force myself to work on stuff, it's going to come out bad. Uh, in those instances, I need to sleep, and I'll take half a Clonny. But it's weird. I don't quite understand why there's so, I mean, I get that it's addictive. Benzos are addictive, and it's very possible to get addicted to benzos. I'm sure Rachel's addicted to them at this point because she takes half a Clonny every night, um, sometimes a full one. But I just got to say that is Rather, Vicky, you are having a complicated relationship with your NESI. When I can't sleep, it's I can't shift out of extroverted intuition into introverted sensing. My mind's running, and I can't find a cooperative place between them. Now, I don't know exactly how that plays out 2-3 instead of 1-4, but there's probably something equivalent where it's like probably your feelings more. Like you're too much in your feelings, intuiting stuff about that, and you're not tired enough to give in and embrace the introverted sensing in the third slot, which is supposed to be a constraint on you rather than so much a hi.
Is Friday firm?
It doesn't have to be. You want me to change the day?
No.
I
got
can.
an email from Delilah this morning that's wishing me happy birthday, but it had no mention.
Yeah, it's firm. I told her we it, and I said, now I'll let you know if it doesn't happen. So yeah, it's firm. But I will call her and confirm it anyway. I set it up as sort of a it's set unless I talk to Dad and he says no, in which case I'll call you back.
Okay, so all right. I'll just say then I'll see you Friday. Then it's okay to say that.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Would you buy that Bud again or not?
Yeah, actually, it's quite good. I'm surprised.
Today's garbage day.
Okay, cool. I'll take the garbage out. Yeah, Budweiser 0% alcohol is quite good. If you like Budweiser, I guess. Sometimes I do like Budweiser. Sometimes it's the thing to do. Oh, sorry, Winston's mom. I had the chat down, and melatonin doesn't really work usually for. I think melatonin may work for NI types, but not NE types. Okay, that person is not heavy set at all, but that person is 83 years old. My dad's not heavy set. He's fit, actually. Getting maybe on the thinner side even as he gets older. Your sister shamed me for saying Bitburger is a good beer. Well, I've never had the alcohol Bitburger before, but the non-alcohol Bitburger. Yeah, he's 83. My non-alcohol Bitburger, that's my very favorite of all the non-alcoholic beers. It's the one that tastes the most like beer, and it's the most satisfying to drink. It's just like, oh, Bitburger, I love you. Come and make love to me, Bitburger. Four Loko has alcohol in their Ravenous Roush. I'm pretty sure they don't have Four Loko non-alcoholic. It's not like people drink Four Loko because it tastes good. It's like, have you tried Everclear non-alcoholic? It's just water. Non-alcoholic Four Loko. Burn your wife's deck furniture at 4 a.m. listening to Christian rock with non-alcoholic Four Loko. Yeah, that's indicative of extroverted intuition in general. Those kind of humorous comments. They have that, Nathan Long. It's called CBD weed. CBD weed is weed without the THC in it, and it. Okay, all right, Ravenous Roush. I mean, I don't doubt it. I just didn't immediately jump to it based on what I looked at right away. You know, I am your dad, probably. You could be one of the children I don't know about. It's possible that I have children I don't know about. Very unlikely, but theoretically possible. I have humped women before that I no longer hump. I'm tall. Yes, I'm 6'4". Most ENTPs are tall and skinny. Or you could be, say, a nephew that I never knew about. You're 6'8", Raphael? That's pretty tall. Are you 6'5", Ravenous Roush? Here's the thing, Ravenous Roush. I was briefly at my tallest point. I would tell people I was 6'5", because I was like 6'4" and 7/8". But I have seemed to have shrunk a little bit as I've gotten older. And I seem to be about 6'4" and a half, 6'4" and a quarter. Yeah. So, I used to be 6'5". It's not the heavy weight of my brain. The thing about brains is they don't need to be heavier to be smarter. They need to be more wrinkly to be smarter. You guys are all lying about your height, okay? You're lying about your height. You're not 6'9", lawnmower. And Kyra, you are not 7'2". Does crushing depression increase atmospheric pressure as well? I'm curious. Or does it just piggyback on it? I bet you don't really have crushing depression. Ravenous Roush. If you are an ENTP, that's the sort of thing we make jokes about, not understanding that other people go, do you really have crushing depression? It's because of psychomotor retardation. It causes psychomotor retardation. What does your crushing depression? Psychomotor retardation, huh? I think I'm going to share with you guys part of a thing that I made a while ago, long time ago.
traders because I really.
Okay. Here we go. I'm gonna play a little piece of this. A piece of this video here. This is the Dartmouth Symposium on Brain Function and Cognition. All right, here we go.
And pleasure to be here today. I am profoundly retarded, and I'm going to be discussing with you some of what that means, how my life is different from your own, what sort of accommodations I need to make in order to take care of myself in consideration of the fact that I am in the profound range of mental retardation. Now, what that means in a clinical sense, of course, is that my IQ falls between 40 and 70.
What's the average person's?
The average person's around 110 to 120. Some of you may be disturbed somewhat today. You're going to see some drooling from me probably. Maybe I'm going to have to ask one of you to change my diaper. I have bladder and bowel control in the physical sense, but unfortunately I lack the cognitive presence required to use a bathroom in the conventional way that you guys do. But we each have our own methodology for that, don't we? And none is superior to another. We're not here to judge. So anyway, but it may be somewhat disturbing if you're not familiar with working with people like myself. It can some people get a little squeamish, understandably. Yes, you in the back. Yeah, I know you can't drive a car, obviously, and do you take public transportation, or how do you get around? That's an excellent question. No, obviously I cannot drive a car. I can't do basic things like read signs or make decisions of any sort. I can take public transportation in the sense that I'm allowed to, but there's a good chance if I was left unattended on the bus, for example, I might just start masturbating right there on the bus and upset the other bus riders because I really lack impulse control. That's part of this whole equation. What does profound mental retardation mean? It means a lack of impulse control, a lack of top-down decision making, absolutely no metacognition. Yes, you here in the front. Yeah, have you fed yourself yet with food yourself? Can you do that? Can you feed yourself? Or do you need help? Do you need help to feed yourself? Excellent question. Yes, I do need considerable help in feeding myself. Well, let me put it this way. Left to my own devices, if you present me with food, I am able to tear it into pieces and shove those pieces into my mouth. And I can chew and swallow, no problem. It's not a physical disability I have. It's actually more of a social issue. It's a social eating etiquette issue. I can consume food just fine. I will get the necessary calories provided the food is presented to me, but I am going to make a mess. I'm going to get it all over my shirt, my face, my hands, everything, and then people have to clean me up. And you don't make friends, throwing your own feces. And that's the problem. Is when I'm dirty, I just I have no self-control. And so after I eat, and I typically bowel movement right then, and if I'm dirty already from the food, I'll want to reach into my...
Hi, friends. So today I shared with you one of the things I've not necessarily been forthright about heretofore. Namely, I do have a mental disability, and I've not been entirely honest about it. I am profoundly mentally retarded. How old was I in that video? I was probably about 30. Let's see. 2020 minus 2004, so it was 16 years ago, so I was 33. I was 33. Yeah. Anyway, I guess it's time that I stop hiding the truth. For those of you who weren't aware, and it shouldn't change how you feel about me, okay? But the truth is, I do suffer from a profound form of mental retardation, and that's why sometimes you may find it hard to understand me, or you may find me socially awkward and dramatic ways. I'm sorry I was born that way. It's not my fault. I'm not alone. I'm a real person, but okay. Listen, you guys. I may be the one who's retarded, but you're the one who's being dumb. Okay? That's a lesson to bullies everywhere. Well, that's not too bad, Ravenous Roush. That's barely retarded. That's pretty good. Why are you calling Ravenous Roush a fog? Ravenous Roush, do you self-identify as a fog? Are you a cloud that's low to the ground? Why do you say you can't wait to die? Come on now, Ravenous. Don't be saying that. It means you're insubstantial and watery, of course. Ravenous Roush, let me tell you something. If you really are an ENTP, I'm going to tell you the simple truth. Here's the simple truth about all ENTPs. Here's this basic simple truth that will allow you to manipulate them if you want to, basically. All ENTPs want to be asked advice about things. And for the other person to be impressed by their insight. So, if you're unhappy as an ENTP, probably you need to put yourself in a position where other people ask you your advice. Bro, I'm not that sad. Don't do this to me. Okay, well, that does sound like FI Polar. On the one hand, saying yeah, and on the other hand, not expecting people to take you seriously. Lawnmower's getting the whole neighborhood this morning. He's chopping everybody's grass. You can't see the new Bill and Ted in the theater. You have to rent it or whatever. How would an ENTP use that information for his own and social benefit? Why are you profound apologizing? Doesn't the torch annihilate the bowl? I do go through bowls quickly. They do crack and break quickly. And that's unfortunate. What strain am I smoking now? I totally forget what it's called. New Bill and Ted sucks because they're two annoying new daughters in it. Why couldn't they have sons? If I'm ENTP, my girlfriend can't be ENTP. That would be crazy. No, you don't want your same type as a girlfriend. You won't find them sexually attractive. That's my experience. Lawnmower's not a troll. He's a little bit staunch in his traditionalism, you might say. Sometimes that can run afoul of running afoul. She's probably not ENTP, your girlfriend. But she might be. No, lawnmower. He was trying not to do the thing you were doing with the gauge, remember? Remember um, as we discussed earlier, he's trying to avoid being guilty of the same problem. If it's bad for you to call him a gay, then he doesn't want to take a risk of calling you a troll. Instead, you just are a troll. Very, very smart. Very ahead of the game there. I like that, Ravenous Rush. I'm going to give you full credit for doing that on purpose. Holla back, Alan. She tests this one. By what test? I don't think Ravenous Rush is all far as much as I can recall. I don't believe you hired me to test her. So you have no idea what type she is. Remember, the only sure thing about typing is my position. I might be. A lawnmower, I probably am. But as long as he rolls with receiving it, you got to sort of give it, you know. Otherwise, nobody can ever be clever. Okay, you do that. You do that, dog. Send me $100. I'll type your chick. Yeah, your chick's a meow. You're fine. Or, your chick's a meow. You better break up. Just like that. Saying lawnmower is a troll is a kind of buoyant statement, but saying lawnmower is troll, well, it's kind of like saying he's droll. End this stream by 1:15. I mean, like end it now, or end it at 1:15 my time. It's currently 9:22 a.m. in the Los Angeleses. So, if you want to actually schedule a typing session, just tell me what time you want. I think I have a 2 o'clock. I think I have a 2 o'clock coaching, debate coaching, or English teaching going on. Calendar. Let me see. Also called calendar. Oh, I have that thing today. Like, shit, I gotta tell my client. I can't do that client thing. I got a 1:30. Let me text them real quick. Hey, I have a 1:30 thing scheduled for today I forgot about. Period. I can't work with anyone at 2 o'clock today. Period. I'm not sure how long my 1:30 thing will take. Period. I should be available by 4 though, at the latest. Okay, so in other words, today's probably not the best day to do that stuff unless you want to do it soon. I have the long limbs and long skull like ENTPs usually supposedly do. I tend to think that's generally the case, but not always. I've encountered some ENTPs who don't have that build, and are definitely ENTPs. I go to this one place in the city to smoke a cig, and I keep being approached by mildly drunk women with some, at least, criminal history 3 days in a row. It's a pattern. What do you do, Eric? Uh, well, uh, I don't know. What do you want to do with them? Like, are you looking for sexual actions? Are you seeking to attain the intercourses, or what? And if so, why? That's another important question, right? Okay, yeah, this is fine. I can play this without. I don't know. Hold on a second. Okay, why are you linking that? Why? What is that for? Why? Cause that. Why would that be linked here? What are you trying to share about was that? Allison's dancer Colinda? Who's Alon's dancer Colinda? Why? Like, what? What is that in reference to, or something? So, utter self, yeah. What do you want to do? If you think you want to poke, why? They like you, maybe like the way you look. They think you seem interesting. They're just checking you out. Maybe they're ESTPs who, you know. The thing is, decide what you want. You know. Do you want to poke? Then know that and be open to that when people come around, right? But you know, it's like that's a pretty shady way to poke. So if you really want to poke, consider maybe, you know, going slow. I'd say there's a lot less risk in poking somebody after you've known them for a while than there is in poking somebody right away. I have always so many questions to Eric, but if he's online, I forget them. I have the same sort of problem. Like, I have so many ideas for live streams when I'm not live streaming, and then when I start live streaming, I forget what I was going to talk about a lot of times. Acute ridiculous syndrome? Usually I don't find lawnmower acutely ridiculous. I would say that's a little strong in the descriptor, probably. Maybe what's a step down from acute? How do you tell someone's okay being poked? Well, I mean, girls have a variety of ways of expressing that to you, and if you're really dense, then they'll eventually just say no. You know, and you go, okay, I guess that means no. But if they, you know, obviously, here's the number one way you can tell if a girl does want to be poked. If a girl wants to be poked, she will always do something like this. You're so funny, and touch your shoulder. You're so funny. Or you're so brave, or whatever. You know, you'll say something that'll allow her to express her admiration for some quality of yours, and concurrently touch your shoulder, and that's how you know that she wants you to poke her. Okay. Ravenous Roush, I will give Lawnmower advice on giving you relationship advice. Lawnmower, when you advise Ravenous Roush on relationships, explain the importance of having the same position on omelets and waffles. It's important. If you don't agree on omelets and waffles, what can you agree on? Well, maybe he's failing your challenge, or perhaps he's not feeling motivated by your challenge. I'm not sure. So, anyhow, let's talk seriously about irregularity. Are you feeling a little constipated lately? Well, I've got a solution for you. Eat more roughage. That's what they say. Eat more roughage. Hey, look, you can see my calendar. Oh no, my privacy. My precious, precious privacy. Whatever shall I do without my precious privacy? Let's see what's in the news, shall we? Biden says Kamala Harris is her VP pick. AOC calls out this shit in a minute-long DNC speech. I should do a series of RNC and DNC speeches. That's maybe how I'll frame it. Today I'm going to do the first of my presidential speeches and videos, you know. Let's see here. Brutal bad beat. Okay, so anyway, as you can tell, there's not really much going on in the world, right? Facebook left 6,500 gallons of drilling fluid off the coast of Oregon. What was Facebook drilling for? Newsom declares statewide emergency because of the heat. Everything's a goddamn emergency, huh, Newsom? It's hot out. Emergency! There's a cold going around. Emergency! Susan B. Anthony was arrested for voting when women couldn't. Trump will pardon her. Trump is going to pardon Susan B. Anthony. Now, there's a meaningful act. Hey, the Mali soldiers are promising elections after the coup. Nice. Oh yeah, there could be elections. Yeah. You could choose between me, this guy, maybe this guy. Any of us, but basically me. Sam Wu, have you been doing tax fraud, insurance fraud? Sam Wu. Well, Apple's still doing well. They had a stock split yesterday, 4-1. I know because my family has Apple stock. Good job, Ohio State. Be smart. Don't be stupid about COVID. It's ridiculous. Where's the story I was reading yesterday or the other day that I wanted to look at? That's the man I wanted to talk about on the live stream. What is that story called? It was Schrodinger's cat quantum whatever shit. I don't know how to freaking spell that word. This one. It's a really interesting article. Now, the thing is, here's the problem. Who was right? Wigner was right. Wigner was right because he says this. Quantum theory appears to be inherently probabilistic. The textbook version, sometimes called the Copenhagen interpretation, says that until systems' properties are measured, they can encompass myriad values. The superposition only collapses into a single state where the system is observed, and physicists can never precisely predict what state that will be in. Wigner held the then popular view that consciousness somehow triggers a superposition to collapse. Thus, his hypothetical friend would discern a definite outcome when she or he made a measurement, and Wigner would never see him or her in the superposition. This view has since fallen out of favor. People in the foundations of quantum mechanics rapidly dismiss Wigner's view as spooky and ill-defined because it makes observers special. Well, of course observers are special. Of course observers are special. The whole power that's being talked about here, at the end of the day, this boils down to observation is an unmeasured force. Probably accounts for all the dark matter in the universe. You know what I'm saying? Will you two stop bickering with each other and engage with these fascinating ideas that I'm presenting to you? Okay? Are we here to argue and bicker over who killed whom? Or are we here to talk about quantum mechanics? Obviously, what quantum theory tells us and the quantum reality tells us is that observation is an unmeasured force. It explains everything. Where's the dark matter? It's filled in by the power of observation. Well, this is one good argument for God. The best argument for God I've ever heard is the one I made up, which is that because superposition to be collapsed requires an observation, and because there are aspects of the universe that we can deductively conclude are unobserved but existent, it's at least deductively suggestive that when we look at someplace we've not looked before, we see something, which suggests it was there prior to us looking at it. And we don't see any moving into the place, so to speak, which suggests, again, that it was there without being observed in any meaningfully described way by human observation. So there must be a single grand observer that allows every superposition to collapse, regardless of where it's located and so forth in space, or presumably even in time. So that's why we can conclude there must be at least something called a grand observer, and that's what we call God. Branching universe theory is bullshit. I don't like it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because it presumes that the future exists before it's created. So in other words, if I can travel back in time, and then I'm existent in a time when the future doesn't exist yet. It's not that that other future existed, it's that the future doesn't exist yet. We can only make manifest any reality other than actual reality as a conditional map description. It never will link to anything physical. There are two components of reality, physical and metaphysical. The idea of branching universes or multiple realities and stuff, that's entirely a metaphysical notion. There is no physical correlate to it. No, it doesn't work like that. It's not one universe, the cat is dead, one is alive. the problem with the whole Schrodinger's cat notion is that the cat's an observer too. So you're doing something to an observer that changes the dynamics of the system. If instead it were something like a switch that has a 50% chance of switching to off, or a 50% chance of remaining the same, and you put it in this box, then the mechanics of Schrodinger's cat work. But they don't work when you're talking about an observer. Well, presumably it can observe its own passing. I mean, it may not be able to observe its non-existence as an observer, but it can observe, anticipate, and know its passing. You know? The point is, if you think about it, if you instead of the cat, you put a person in there, and you say you don't know if the person's alive or dead, well, obviously, yeah, I like that concept too. The concept of Schrodinger's asshole, a person who's being rude while actually wanting to help. Alright, well, yeah, merely observing the universe changes it. It is true that taking a measurement changes the system. CERN, I mean, I read all kinds of articles. You know, it's like, the reason we're talking about this article is because I was just reading it the other day because it seemed interesting. But let's look a little bit more about why it's weird to say what we say about Schrodinger's cat. The question irked and inspired Hungarian-American physicist Eugene Wigner in the 60s. He was frustrated by the paradoxes arising. Take his fellow physicist Erwin Schrödinger's famous thought experiment in which a cat is trapped in a box with poison that will be released if a radioactive atom decays. Radioactivity is a quantum process, so before the box is opened, the story goes, the atom has both decayed and not decayed, leaving the unfortunate cat in limbo, a so-called superposition between life and death. But does the cat experience it being in superposition? The thing is, of course, before the box is opened, the cat has observed whether the atom has decayed or not. So, no. Because he sharpened the paradox by imagining a human friend of his shed in a lab measuring a quantum system. He argued it was absurd to say his friend exists in a superposition of having seen and not seen a decay unless and until Wigner opens the lab door. That Wigner's friend thought experiment shows that things can become very weird if the observer is also observed. Well, no, it just shows that, in fact, Wigner's basic principle is correct, that observation is a force that's collapsed to superposition. It's the simplest explanation, the most correct explanation, and the only reason people don't like it is because it's an unmeasured force. The solution to that is not to deny that it's a force, but rather to measure it. You know? Know what I'm saying? Wow, Eric, you're right again. I know, it's amazing. It's a talent of mine. Being right about super fancy stuff that scientists get wrong. You know, it's like, you got all these people with all this schooling and shit, and they're all totally wrong about evolution, and I'm right about it. You got all these people about quantum, whatever, blah, 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 and I got the correct position on it. Why? Intuition. Intuition. I don't need to use your stinking empirics. I use my intuition. Okay? We'll see. You think you're a spleen? Yeah, any input of energy into a system changes the properties. The reason why you can't predict weather, no matter how much... No, but see, that's the point, Skygear. You were wrong. I am saying that I'm correct about this based on my intuition, but that I can't deductively sustain that argument. Okay? Time will prove me correct. This is unlike evolution. I don't have the math background and so forth to explain mathematically why I'm right. But I am right. I made this claim long before I read this article, long before I even knew anything about these aspects of quantum mechanics. I made the claim that observation is an unmeasured force. And I continue to be right about it. Why? Because of my intuition, which is remarkably good, I've determined. I've been slow to accept that reality, but eventually I had to accept that even though it's consistent with FI, namely my bias, and therefore it can't possibly be true. Anything that's consistent with my bias can't possibly be true. Even though it's consistent with my bias, I genuinely have uniquely powerful intuition. You know? Who knows why? Doesn't matter. I'm just incredibly consistently right about things when I direct my intuition about them. So I'm right about evolution, no disputing that. I'm right about everybody being crazy about McDonald's, for example. No disputing that. I was right about COVID. No disputing that. It's not egotism. It's what do you do when that's the truth? What do you do when that's the truth, Zaylen Black? What do you do when you're the one who figured out what's wrong with cognitive functions and corrected it? When you are the most right person in the world about personality types, what do you do if you're that person? Because somebody's that person, right? That's the challenge. What does one do? Well, there's the FE considerations, which, of course, if I just state the truth as it is, and I'm honest about things, I'm going to be accused of being egotistical, arrogant, full of myself, have delusions of grandeur or whatever, right? Or I can be engaged in false modesty, which is something that I decided some time back to jettison for a variety of reasons. I could just not talk about it. But what I do here is the best I can, you know? Share the info, collaborate with others in fields you thoroughly know. I mean, Zaylen Black, I'm doing the best I can to express my positions on things. It's not arrogant if you don't proof check your theory if you acknowledge that the thing is based just on intuition. So when I explain that evolution's bullshit, I can win that argument every time. When I explain that the correct position on that quantum one is the guy who says that observation is a force, that's just my intuition. You don't have to agree with me. You shouldn't believe that I've proved it. You shouldn't think that my position is more well established or a more desirable position to hold than somebody who's got better argumentation in defense of their position. Absolutely. I'm just informing you that's what my intuition says. And I've got to a point where I'm learning to trust my intuition, you know? Bye, Kyra. Can I make my background a gulag? The thing is, no, email anthrax. The important thing is to do what I do, which is to be honest about how you should respond to my positions and whether or not my positions are supported at this level, or this level. Everybody has multiple positions. It's not only okay to hold a position on that which you can deductively prove. So you're correct. I am not equipped to do the hardcore thinking about quantum mechanics that would be required to be deductively certain about something to have a firm conclusion like that. I'm telling you what my intuition says. Now, on the other hand, with evolution, I'm telling you, this is not my intuition. I can win this argument against the most robust evolutionary scientist anybody can throw at me. No doubt whatsoever. So, I'm telling you very different things there, right? You should believe me in both instances, because I'm able to differentiate between when I'm making a substantiated claim and when I'm not. I mean, I'm telling you what my intuition says. I believe I'm right about this, and this is what my intuition says about observations and unmeasured force. It answers so many questions. So why do I make bold claims? I mean, that's not that bold of a claim. The things I do make bold claims about, I can win those arguments. I make bold claims about evolution. I make bold claims about typology. I can win all of those arguments 100% of the time because I am actually correct, at least more correct than anybody else. But regarding quantum mechanics, I don't claim to be able to win those arguments. I'm telling you, this is what my intuition says. And if you don't want to trust my intuition, fine. But it's been pretty reliable in the past. You know? Yeah, I mean, I am that bold about typology, Raphael. I'm the world's foremost expert on typology and cognitive functions. I'm probably the only person in the world who fully understands it or gets it as right as it can be gotten at the moment. That is the truth. Now, as somebody who has to live with that truth, how do I deal with it? People don't like you saying that kind of stuff out loud. They think it's an FE problem. They think you have delusions of grandeur or something like that. And they typically don't want to actually engage in the conversation that would prove them wrong. I'm not saying observation has no force, Raphael. I was saying observation is an unmeasured force that we need to account for in physics. But you might disagree with me. You know, I'm not really trying to persuade you about that. I'm trying to say that's my intuition about it. You can trust my intuition or not. What I'm saying is that when I am trying to persuade you, it's because I am right, and it's universal. I agree. People could be dismissive about the areas I excel in, and they could think that I have delusions of grandeur. This is the challenging reality I face. I know for a fact I have no delusions of grandeur. I'm extremely accurate about my relative strength in various areas, where, in fact, I win the arguments and where I don't. Extremely accurate about that. So, I mean, there's nothing delusional about what I'm saying. There's no way anybody can, in fact, cause me to be perceived as delusional by pointing out that by talking to me and revealing some sort of delusion. It just wouldn't happen. I'm just too correct and reasonable. However, I do acknowledge that it's a presentation problem for me. In other words, I need to figure out an ideal way to convey those truths in ways that don't make people feel immediately off-put or threatened. At the same time, I don't want to mislead people. So if I say, hey, there's a lot of people out there coming up with good ideas about cognitive functions, and nobody's right. It's just we're all part of a big team of. I'm just lying to people. Then I'm not going to do that. It's interesting you say, how do you measure metaphysical ideas? That's a good question, Ravenous Roush. But the reason I think it's so interesting is because I think it may have been in this article. This same article says, let me see if I can push find. Yeah. So this is what he says. This new work is an, quote, important step forward in the field of experimental metaphysics, unquote. Which is another thing that I've been saying all along, right? That remember that philosophy gets right first, what then physics comes behind and tries to prove. Philosophy is the true lord of all the sciences. Underlying every science is a philosopher sending those people of less broad thinking out to deal with a node, So, I love the expression of experimental metaphysics, meaning you're looking for empirical data about metaphysics. So that's how you measure metaphysical content in part, is you say, well, we're measuring the existentiality or instantiation of something, whether it's collapse from a superposition. That's a very metaphysical concern. Obviously, we don't experience existence like that. So, yeah. For the empiricists out there, philosophy's always subsumed you. Thinking has always subsumed your particular modality. It will always subsume it. TE is one school of TI, basically. And the fact that TE people don't get that is annoying to me. It's like, yes, utility is one of the things we study and understand. It's not the dominant frame of everything, for God's sakes. It is subsumed by my TI and other TI users' TI. Everything in its proper place works great, you know. TE users solving problems in legitimate ways that are legitimized by TI users is a great team thing. TE users trying to use TE to justify things is a recipe for the disaster of the world, you know. That was a good bong rip. Bottles and cans, and just clap your hands, and just clap your hands. Where it's at. 2 turntables and a microphone. Where it's at. 2 turntables and a microphone. Hopefully Eric watches. Hopefully Eric watches what? Raphael, you are one of a myriad of frustrating TE users, okay? TE and TI should dance. They're both a beautiful piece of the process. And TI understands that. And TE wants to jettison the TI part because TI wants to constrain rather than empower. But constraint is power. You know, that's the thing. It's long-term power. If you want to have long-term power, it needs to be sustainable. But it needs to be, if you want something to be sustainable, it needs to be just. If you want something to be just, it needs to be justified. Fayt wins. You. Well, I was just basically saying how I need to figure out a way to persuade you without without negating your ways. You know, that you're going to be one of the challenges for me. FI people in general, but you're a good example of somebody who's a challenge for me as a presidential candidate that is trying to be a good communicator to all kinds of people, all the citizens, regardless of what their modality is. And so, you know, yesterday I had some trouble communicating with you because we got stuck on adversarialness, you know? I got frustrated by what I saw was a fundamentally wrong path of discourse right out the gate. So, you know, if you're saying, single payer works in every country, blah, 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 then you're beginning with an outcome you want, and so it's like that was a little frustrating for me because it's better to begin with where we are and to see how we can get to a better place. It's easy for us all to try to find a single issue that we can talk about other people and say, well, if they don't agree with me on this, then they're on the other team. What I'm trying to do is get rid of that team stuff. So, for example, you don't know if I'm on your team or not regarding this issue. You're still trying to argue that you won the point about single payer without knowing whether I disagree with you about that point. You know, what I'm saying is to say that it works in every country is, I'm sure, true, but it's not a meaningful statement, right? We need to see it work better than some alternative for us to understand where you're going with that. If you just say it works, okay, but that's not what we ended up arguing about. We ended up arguing about, instead, whether your statement that it works was an FI statement or a TE statement or something like that, right? I pointed out that it was FI because it wasn't justified at all. It didn't compare anything. It was just expressing your desire to side with that position. So, the point I'm trying to make is that I let it get adversarial about who was right or wrong yesterday about a certain point because I found it frustrating that you weren't working with me to eliminate wrongness. But of course, that's not the kind of person you are, and that's not the type you are. And so that's one of the things that I need to learn to do better, right? Is communicate with you in ways that are effective for you as a listener, that will help you to afford me more legitimacy because of my reasonableness and because of my nuanced approach, rather than less legitimacy because I don't correlate exactly with a team thing. So I got to figure out a way to do that. The best thing I can say is, if you are a voter in America and you want single payer health care, then you want to vote for me. If you're a voter in America and you hate socialized medicine, then you want to vote for me. How could that possibly be the case? Because no matter what your ideological position on the matter is, we have an actual structure already in place that needs to be dealt with in actual ways. There's a limited amount of action we can take upon it, and we have to take action that's going to meaningfully improve it. Now, if you're insistent that you're not going to vote for anybody who won't promise to scrap everything existing and replace it with a massive new system, well, I'm not your guy, and the guy you vote for won't accomplish that, because that's not reality. I am your guy in the sense that I want to make sure more Americans get health care. I want to support the idea of reducing the role of middlemen insurers, which cause the cost to skyrocket. And in this regard, there may be things or may not be things that I can do as president to make that happen. You can count on me to work towards the best possible end for the country in a holistic judging fashion, namely that I will not prioritize only factor X, Y, Z, or A, B, C in determining whether something is a good idea or not. I'll factor everything in, and it'll have to be on balance a substantial benefit for me to undertake the course of action. The thing is, I appreciate the opportunity that talking with famous people gives me to communicate with people who have different perspectives and try to get across what I'm saying, because it's something I'm going to have to do a lot of, and it's also how I become a better person. How do I become a better person? I become a better person by making my correctness inclusive rather than exclusive, inclusive rather than adversarial, participatory rather than adversarial. Um, and and the thing is, most of the time I disagree with somebody, it's easy enough to point out to them, I don't even disagree with you. I'm saying you're most people in politics, they're talking about hiring a carpenter. But instead of telling the carpenter, thinking they should get a carpenter who's able to build a house well, they think they should get a carpenter who agrees with them about architectural taste. Like, I like, you know, colonial homes. Oh, well, I do too. Well, then you're the carpenter for me. But you should instead be evaluating their skill as a carpenter. And that's what politics is like. I'm applying for the job of head carpenter. And everybody wants to talk to me about what style of architecture I like. It's missing the point. Styles of architecture are not good indicators of how to do carpentry. I'm not just deducing. No, I'm inductive as well. You're misrepresenting what I'm saying, Fayt, entirely. What I'm saying is I'm going to take a holistic approach that is not merely focused on legitimacy and that acknowledges that sometimes things that aren't strictly legitimate need to be done anyway. That acknowledges that we've got a bunch of coral reefs in the society right now, which is to say things that I might not, or if an ideal world might not think were good things to build in the first place. Nevertheless, we have lots of ecosystems growing around them, so it's not okay to simply tear them down. Now, this is a meaningful engagement with you about the ideas, which is to say, I agree with you. It's not just TI, but it's also TE. We have to acknowledge the concrete realities of the how-tos. We can't get things exactly how we want them because we're not starting with a blank slate. So this is what it sounds like when somebody's serious and engaging with you politically. If you're looking for something else from a politician than what I'm offering, then you will always vote for the wrong person. You will always vote for somebody who's willing to lie to you and deceive you, or just be an ideologue on your side, versus somebody who's a meaningful leader. A meaningful leader is not going to be the most zealous defender of your basic worldview. If you care about the country, you're not going to vote for such a person. You're going to vote for somebody who's a genuine statesman. Whether or not you believe I'm going to do good work for the country, I'm hopeful after this conversation you believe I understand what doing the job of president means. That it doesn't mean deciding single payer or meh. It means working within a reality that already exists to try to maximally attain justice and positive outcomes for the nation as a whole. So no, I'm not just deductive. Thanks, Fayt Wind. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Fayt Wind. And this is so moralizing. You know, I found my inability to bridge the gap with you the other day demoralizing. And I find this very moralizing. That, in fact, if I'm honest and explain myself well enough, I can bridge gaps. Ultimately, that's going to have to be the thing that makes me different than other politicians. And so I appreciate it a great deal. Thank you for the emotional boost as much as the money. I appreciate it a great deal. So let me pull this bonger. I am basically out of weed. I'm out of cigarettes. So I am going to have to wrap up this stream pretty darn soon to get more cigarettes, if nothing else. I am too engaged with people on a real level to be a political stooge. And it's also the case that I'm too honest to be a political stooge. And that I'm not selfish enough to be a political stooge, politician, you say, I don't claim to be a politician. I claim to be a statesman. A statesman and a citizen who's trying to serve his civic duty in a citizen democracy that is vastly tarnished from what it once was, frankly, and from what it was envisioned as being. In some sense, it never was what it was envisioned as being, but it's nevertheless tarnished and can regain luster by the application of an honest citizen's honest, earnest efforts if that citizen is well enough informed, intelligent enough, insightful enough, and qualified. Well, I'm that guy, so I'm going to do the job. Anyway, I got to go. Again, thanks to Fayt for working with me. I appreciate it. And it does make me emotional, you know? I'm a patriot. What can I say? Have a great day, everybody. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.